long been calls for transparency when it comes to details about Jeffrey Epstein, who was in his network, what exactly that really looked like. And it seems like a lot of people, according to a recent Reuters Ipsos poll, only 21% of Americans approve of the way the administration's handling information related to Epstein. And around 3 million more documents, as I said, related to Epstein, they're not being released to the public. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said there's not some tranche of super secret documents about Jeffrey Epstein that we're withholding. What do you make of that? What's your reaction to that, A? And B, what questions do you have? What do you exactly want to see next?
Again, this is a completely different circumstance. This is not your garden variety criminal case. This is a criminal case in which the United States Congress and the United States Senate said you should release the information in this particular case because of the public and national interest that has been brought up because of these victims and the stories that are yet to be told and exposed in the people that have raped and abused them for, it looks like, years. And so this is unique. And either the rule of law and the people that you elected that took a vote that you asked them to take, and now the administration is not following that law, either that rule of law means something or it doesn't. And so for every voter that thought that when Trump said that he was going to release the files, when they put out those binders and said, here it comes, here it starts, to now know that that was a complete sham, that was a complete fraud. And it seems all it was about putting his people in power that would keep that information secret. And so they're not complying with the law. They're not complying with a public vote. And this is a unique situation in which the entire nation has said that they want to see it. They want the transparency on it. And it is now law. And they clearly are not following it. And so I think you have two questions. One, what do you do about the Department of Justice failing to comply with the most recent law passed by Congress and the Senate? And what do you do about the fact that the people in power seem to potentially be continuing to shield their inner circle from public view on a pedophile ring that reaches all levels of power and wealth in this nation?
And it seems like we don't even know the true extent of where this reaches. And I think at the heart of this, obviously, it's disgusting. We're talking about victims of sexual exploitation, victims of sex trafficking, some of them minors. I mean, it's just so tragic. And yet we're seeing this political theater sometimes, this political circus, this fighting, this partisan bomb throwing, really, when it comes to what calls for transparency. But if you had the opportunity to sit across from Attorney General Bondi, what exactly would you ask her?
I would ask her why she's not following the current law. I mean, she's the attorney general, but this particular incident, Congress most recently passed a law that says you need to turn over this file, and she's not doing it. And so why are you not following the law? What's in there that you're afraid of, and who in particular are you trying to protect? Because it sure does seem like she's not serving the people of the United States or the victim population in this world. It seems like she's serving the person who appointed her to the position. And so I think everybody needs to look at that. It is potentially a disgrace. And I have had the opportunity to represent victims. And there are victims at every part of this nation. Human trafficking is a massive issue, and it is something that we all need to be ready to combat. But if you can't combat that, and you can't be honest about the largest trafficking ring known, he is convicted by a jury and everybody knows it. If you can't expose the truth around that, because the people who were raping these children could get on private jets and fly to private islands, then it does show you that there is a billionaire or wealthy class that is being protected at the highest levels of government. And that has to offend every citizen, not only in this nation, but in the world.
And I'm not a lawyer, so explain this to me, because I just have a question. If the Deputy Attorney General is saying there's not super secret documents on Epstein that we're withholding, and there's 3 million that are being withheld, and let's say, and obviously, if there's sensitive information about victims, obviously redact that, of course. Why not release it then?
I don't know. I can't, you can't answer that question. Like, if there's nothing that needs to be shielded because it's super secret, then why do you have black lines all over the paragraph so we, the public, can't see what's behind it? Every time you see one of those blacked out boxes, there is clearly words on the other side of that page that this administration doesn't want everyday Americans to see. And so if it's not a secret, why are you putting the black shield on the page? Let it out. And again, this is not a normal prosecution. This is not a normal case where everyday individuals can say, look, I'd like to see that file. There's public information on just about every filing, but to see the full case, that's not normal. This is extraordinary, but it's extraordinary because the Congress and the Senate almost unanimously voted that this particular file and this particular piece of information needed to be released to the public. And so the fact that they continue to, one, violate that law, they are violating that law that just got passed, that most Americans knew about the vote and called in and said, you're my representative. I want you to vote this way. I want the exposure on this issue. And in part, it is because the nation wants to heal its own soul around this wrongdoing. I mean, this is no different than any other level of abuse that as a nation you look at, whether it's a church scandal or a camp scandal. You get beyond it and then you realize what the nation had done wrong that allowed those children to be victimized, and you do better. But we can't do better here by the people that need it, because the highest level of government right now, the Department of Justice, while the president's name is riddled throughout these files, continues to publish pages with blacked out sections on it, despite the fact that the law says stop doing it. They should protect the victims. And I would understand if they said, we're trying to shield the victim information. But we know that they didn't, because they've been putting that information out. So this is either incompetent or pure levels of corruption. And I think that's the question that continues to be raised by people is, whose interests do they really serve? And it sure doesn't look like it's the victims. When Pam Bondi can't turn around and look at the victims, that should tell you a whole lot. And the fact that the victims continue to come to Congress and to stand there and to highlight, let me tell you, every one of those women, and they know it because they know the shame they felt and they know how they were not heard or seen. When they stand there for thousands of victims of abuse that right now are not being heard from and don't have the strength to stand up. And so thank God for those women. And those are the folks that we should be protecting and taking cues from them when they are telling us there is vital information that this nation doesn't know about its own pain and how to move beyond into healing and some level of protection of actual children.
Congressman Massey said that this was a scandal that was worse than Watergate. So I'm sure as we continue to look at these documents, more will be revealed. Congress is going in, they are going to be seeing the unredacted documents. I'm sure more will be revealed then. And as this investigation continues, I hope you and I can have another conversation on what we're learning and where we're at. Representative, thank you so much for the time today and your expertise. You're welcome back anytime.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you.